In this demo, we're going to take a look at a new project, which is a ScaleIO Mesos Framework. And what it does is it takes an existing ScaleIO cluster, and as new Mesos Agent nodes get onboarded to a Mesos cluster, it will take the ScaleIO components and install them on that Mesos Agent node. That gives the ability to offer up ScaleIO's block storage volumes to Mesos agent nodes. You can take a look here on Amazon in EC2. I have a typical 3-node Mesos cluster, and then I currently have 2 slave nodes. One's running and one's in the off state. And then I have my ScaleIO cluster, which is, you see the primary MDM, secondary MDM, and tiebreaker. And those ScaleIO nodes are also the ones that are offering up the raw disks that comprise the ScaleIO volumes. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look in Marathon here, and in my Mesos cluster, and we already see that we have Mesos DNS running, and this just provides an easy way to look up the Mesos master leader, so that when we launch our ScaleIO scheduler, it's easy to identify who the master is. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. So what we're going to do next is we're going to curl some JSON over to Marathon, and that will in turn create the ScaleIO scheduler, and it will receive offers for resources that are out there in this Mesos cluster, so which is going to be the running Mesos agent node, and that will in turn launch an ScaleIO executor on that agent node and install all the ScaleIO components necessary to manage the ScaleIO infrastructure, as well as give it access to ScaleIO volumes that can be presented to the agent node. So we're talking about control plane and then also data plane. So let's go ahead and start the ScaleIO scheduler right now. If we go ahead and we look in Marathon here, we can see the ScaleIO scheduler being deployed. We can also look at the Mesos master node here and take a look at the scheduler being staged right now. And I've embedded a UI inside the scheduler that will also tell us what the state of the executors are. And we can already see that the executor has already been created on the Mesos agent node, and it's installing the ScaleIO packages right now. And that's also reflected in the master leader right here. And now it's installing the RexRay component. So this is the storage orchestration engine that we're going to be used to manage ScaleIO volumes. So that's basically create and mount and unmount ScaleIO volumes. And now we can see that the executor has run its full length of what it's supposed to do, and now ScaleIO is running on that Mesos agent node. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to onboard or create a new Mesos agent node. So this is a new system that hasn't been introduced to the Mesos cluster yet, and so we're going to do that by powering on this Mesos slave 2 node right here. It's currently in the stop state, and we're going to go ahead and move it to the running state. When that Mesos agent node comes up for the first time, it's going to offer up the resources to the scheduler, and you can see it right there, and it's going to install another executor on this new Mesos agent node, and it's going to run through its normal life cycle here by installing the ScaleIO packages, and then also install RexRay. There you can see RexRay is being installed. And now we've entered the running state for ScaleIO. So now on this second Mesos agent node, we have the ability to provision and mount ScaleIO volumes to it. So what we're going to do next is we're going to create a web server that's going to use a external persistent volume, so a ScaleIO volume, and it's going to write some data on its own on this volume. It's a simple text file that'll basically start appending messages to it. And what we're going to do is the Mesos agent node that owns that web server application, that running instance, we're going to fail that by shutting it down, and we'll see that that workload along with its persistent data will move over to the second Mesos agent node, and this will basically demonstrate that this application is now highly available. So let's go ahead and do that. So same thing, I'm going to curl a JSON file to the Marathon instance, and we're going to create our web server. And we see that the web server is getting created, and in the background it's also taking a ScaleIO volume and mounting it to the Mesos agent node where this thing is running. So I embedded a little UI in this web server that lets us take a look at the text file. So if we open up the little web UI, we can look at my data here. We can already see that it's writing data into this text file. And if we do a refresh on there, we should see that it continues to append more and more data. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go to the Amazon instance, and we're going to go ahead and fail this slave node here that contains this web server that's running. And what we should see is that this web server will fail back over to the first instance of the Mesos agent node, and we should be able to demonstrate that it'll take all of its data along with it and continue to append to that text file, and we'll basically demonstrate high availability for this application. So let's go ahead and do that right now. So I'm going to stop this Mesos instance. If we go back to Marathon here, we should hopefully see, if it doesn't happen too quickly, that the web server will scale down and then get redeployed onto the first Mesos agent node. And there we go. There we can see that it's recovered. If we go back to the Mesos master leader, we should see that it's now entering the running state, and it's failed over to the first Mesos agent node. And if we go ahead and open up that web UI, we should see that the data has been preserved and it's continuing to append more data to this file. So this basically demonstrates the ScaleIO Mesos Framework, which, if we review everything, took an existing Mesos agent nodes, installed all the ScaleIO packages onto that agent node, which gave it the ability to manage and attach ScaleIO volumes to that agent node. And then we also saw that when we onboarded new Mesos agent nodes, the scheduler was able to detect that, receive an offer from the new resource, so this new Mesos agent node, then install all the ScaleIO components onto that agent node so that it could also provision and mount ScaleIO volumes onto that node. And then we deployed a static file web server that was scribbling data into this text file. We deployed this web server to one of the Mesos agent instances, and then we went back into Amazon, stopped that instance, and watched the web server migrate over to the second Mesos agent node. It moved that volume along with it so that it preserved all its data, and it was able to continue on where it left off. So this is basically a very good demonstration of how software-defined storage platforms like ScaleIO, coupled with two-layer scheduling through like Mesos frameworks, create a powerful high availability story that will allow external persistent storage to be deployed automatically to your Mesos agent nodes.